It seems like Konami's been in the news a lot lately, and the reason for that being is because there's been rumors going around that they're interested in, I guess, remastering Metal Gear Solid 4 for current generation game systems like the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and PC. I'm not too sure about Nintendo Switch, but it'd be nice if we got a Switch port of Metal Gear Solid 4. This is something that hasn't really been confirmed by Konami themselves, but there have been like small little hints here and there that it's something that might possibly happen in the future. And it might as well should, considering the fact that we got the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 this past year in 2023. And I believe that collection had the original Metal Gear game from the late 80s, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, the Metal Gear Solid game from 98, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. And I believe that game is getting a remake, which is something that's been talked about a lot like earlier in the year. And I do feel that Konami should definitely do everything they can to earn as much as they can off of the Metal Gear Solid franchise, because we all know that Hideo Kojima is not with Konami anymore. And it turns out that he was pretty much like the creator of the series. He's been working on the game since the 80s. And and obviously, the rift between Konami and Hideo Kojima was due to the fact that he wanted too much money for another Metal Gear Solid game, because Metal Gear Solid 5 was very expensive, way more expensive than it had any business being in terms of budget. And despite the fact that Metal Gear Solid 5 did like 10 million sales, Konami didn't want to grant his request on giving him the type of money he needed to make a sequel that could potentially top Metal Gear Solid 5. And with that being said, I don't know whether or not we're ever going to get a Metal Gear Solid 6. And even if we do, it probably won't be the same if the original director is not involved. But, this game right here, I think, is a classic. Metal Gear Solid 4 is a game that. It was great for its time, and I feel like it's a game that should have gotten a remake, or it should have gotten remastered like years ago. I don't think anything special got done with Metal Gear Solid 4 during its 10-year anniversary, which is back in 2018, at least not to my knowledge. And you look at like everything like with the game, like the setting of the game, took place in 2014. You controlled Old Snake, and you learn a lot about a couple of different things. And you find out that the main villain in that game is more powerful than the main villain in some of the older games. You learn about Naomi's tragic demise. You learn about Raiden and Rose, fate following their separation after the Big Shell incident. Um, like there was like a lot of things in Metal Gear Solid 4 that was pretty cool during the time period when it came out. And I don't think Metal Gear Solid 4 sold nearly as much as Metal Gear Solid 5 did, but I think it sold somewhere around the ballpark between like 5 and 6 mil. And I don't think Metal Gear Solid 4 is quite as popular or seen on the same level as Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, because I feel like the Snake Eater game is more iconic overall, along with the 1998 Metal Gear Solid game that came out. Sons of Liberty was a game that I do feel like it looked aesthetically pleasing, and it was something that kind of like it had a dark tone to it. Let's just say that, because I believe in that game, um, I believe like the main character, Old Snake, pretty much had like an illness, and that's the thing that kind of contributed to the overall like the overall tone of the game itself. Because the main character had an illness that was a danger to like the worldwide population. And then you find out what had happened to Big Boss following Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. And you find out that Big Boss had survived and was comatose until the end of the game, and he eventually died because of the Fox die virus. So yeah, it's like Yeah, it's like I feel like the tone for Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriot overall was dark when you really look back at it, but there are more people who are impressed by how the game looked, the gameplay itself, the storytelling, the voiceover acting. There were so many features about this game that really stood out to a point where I feel like it's one of those titles that don't get the type of appreciation that it deserves. And and honestly, I'm not exactly sure if if Konami goes about remastering Metal Gear Solid 4, where do they go from here? Because next year is going to be the 10-year anniversary of the release of Metal Gear Solid 5, which came out back in 2015. So I guess after Metal Gear Solid 4, they can remaster Metal Gear Solid 5, but I don't necessarily see a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 5 being in the works or anything like that. And even if they do make a sequel, it's not going to be as good as any of the other games we got in the past unless Konami and Hideo Kojima are able to mend fences, put their differences aside, and I guess decide to do business with one another. But the idea of Metal Gear Solid 4 coming to the PlayStation 5 sounds dope. The idea of it coming to the Xbox Series X sounds dope. If Konami does decide to bring Metal Gear Solid 4 to a Nintendo console, they should probably wait for the Switch 2, especially considering the fact that Nintendo's most likely going to reveal it in 2025. But but yeah, remastering Metal Gear Solid 4 is something that I think is long overdue. And if these rumors are indeed true, I can't wait to hear the official announcement for Konami themselves.